We'll move now to comp number 2, a single helicopter against a blue sky. By clicking and dragging, we can see that the helicopter doesn't really move around. However, what's happening here is that the camera moves around, and the helicopter hovering in the sky looks like it's jumping all over the place. Rather than track this data, what I want to do is stabilize the data. So here I'm going to double-click on the layer for the helicopter, and inside of my tracker controls, choose Stabilize Motion. Again, I'm going to get a tracker and a track point. This works very similarly to the track motion, but instead what this is going to do, rather than moving the track point around the layer, it's going to fix the track point, then move the layer around the track point. On the first frame, I'll move the track point over to the tail of the helicopter. There's a nice cross there. And again, it's not the attach point that I'm tracking, but instead the entire area inside of this smaller box. So all of those pixels will be taken into account when I go to track this data. I'm going to open up the outside, our search area, a little bit more by clicking on it and dragging it open. Again, I'll go to the tracker control options, and this time I'll go and change my confidence level to something a little bit higher. If I change the confidence to about 80%, I'll know that if it drops below a higher confidence level, it's actually going to be more accurate. I'll click OK, then track this forward. You'll notice that the tracker stopped. Here inside the layer window, you'll also see the track point has fallen very far from the tail and the fin of the helicopter. I'll move it by clicking and dragging this back up to the cross point. Now the reason I'm using the attach point here is so that I can have a reference. Again, I'll use the forward track, and it stopped again at the very last frame. I'll click forward once just to make sure that I have all of those frames covered. Here I can see the path of the helicopter as it exists in the movie. Obviously, the helicopter isn't flying this way, the camera's moving this way, and I need to stabilize the movement of the camera against the movement of the helicopter in the scene. This time, our target is going to be the layer itself. I could extrapolate this data and stabilize a different layer using this track point, but instead I'll choose the layer that I have just tracked in order to stabilize it against itself. I'll click OK, and then again I'll need to click Apply here. In my Tracker Apply options, again I want to apply both the X and Y features so that it stabilizes right to the center of the screen. I'll click OK. And notice that After Effects has moved the entire layer. Here in the parameters for the transformations of this layer, you can see that now the anchor point is what's being animated, and by animating that anchor point to the movement of our tracking data, it's making a change in the offset so that the helicopter looks like it's in the same place throughout the duration of the clip. Moving back to the very beginning of the comp, I'll click 0 to create a quick RAM preview. Now, although it looks like the helicopter is staying put, all of the edges from the outside of this clip are coming into view as the stabilization occurs. If we want to crop the helicopter, we can't create a mask shape directly on this layer, as the mask shape is going to move with the layer itself. Instead, what we'll need to do is close this up. We'll make a new solid by using either Command-Y on a Mac or Control-Y on a PC. We'll make sure it's the comp size, and then click OK. Now we have a solid layer that is the entire size of our comp. We can't see through it. So what we'll do is create a small mask with our rectangular marquee tool and click and drag around the location of the helicopter. I've made my mask about the size of the helicopter. Then I'll go to the selection tool and double click this mask just to move it immediately over the area that the helicopter occupies. Now, if you're uncomfortable with trying to position this mask shape over your helicopter, simply choose the layer, use T to open up the opacity transformation, then lower the opacity to something that you can see through. Now you can modify the mask so it occupies the space immediately over your helicopter. When you're done, change the opacity back to 100%. Next, we'll use F4 to go to our Modes column and then switch the track matte to use the alpha channel of our solid. Once we have the track matte set, creating another RAM preview shows the helicopter hovering in the same spot and the edges of that layer aren't jumping into frame as the composition plays out.